Seven Deadly Sins. Here we go. The King of Lions appoints Hauser as the new acting Great Holy Knight, needing a leader to rise during this dark age. Privately, the king reveals the current 5 members of the Seven Deadly Sins, a premonition of his. The sins will reassemble when the moon shines at midday and the fog hangs low in the royal capital. Once again, Netflix have got the rights to this so they can claim this as an original anime. There are 24 episodes at 24 minutes a piece. If you do count the intro and the credits, so probably about 20 minutes a piece. This series is called The Wrath of the Gods. As you can guess by the title, there is very much godlike things happening in this season. The first 8 episodes really dip into that team that was kind of disbanded. It basically has to see them forming again as a team to fulfill that prophecy by the king, and then have our major main arc come into play. And when I say major main arc, there are a lot of arcs happening around the main characters. Of course, it again all centers around Meliodas and the 10 Commandments, and what is left of the 10 Commandments. If you remember what's happened at the end of the 3rd season, we have again those relationships with Bon and his fairy queen. We have Meliodas and his epic love story as we get to find out. And that's what I really like about the first 8 episodes really of season 4, is they really dip into those backstories. So we've had little tasters of backstories from these characters, especially the Deadly Sins, as the series have gone on. We've had that in season 1, we had that cheeky season 2 with the 4 episodes, and then we had season 3 where we get to find out more. But this one, they really concentrate on going back in the past even, and showing us where the world has ended up, why the world has ended up there, particularly some of those characters where they need to get their strengths from, why they're so turmoil. If you thought the previous seasons were dark, this season puts all of those to shame, because in true anime fashion, their background stories are great, and it's pretty much why I think a lot of anime lovers love backstories to characters, because it gives so much more gravitas to their current predicament where they are at, like in their timeline, in their kind of presence. It really gives their characters to be so much more likable, so much more relatable, why you feel sad for them, or you feel angry when stuff goes wrong for them and you just want them to win. But in true anime fashion, they show really great backstories here, which I really appreciated it. When we first started going towards that kind of backwards timeline, I was like, I really hope they're going to stay in the present, and that had me conflicted for an episode until I understood what they were doing. So really kind of revealing their past really adds weight to the storyline in the present, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really good. There isn't as much action in the first half as there has been in previous seasons. That's because they're really building it up, and you will see that action where they shine in the animation here come into play in certain times. So you would get like a fight sequence with Meliodas and one of his teammates. I won't go into why, and that is very cool. I like the way they did it. But in true anime fashion, it's a builder, and it keeps rising to that moment where you're going to get that those fantastic fight scenes which you want, but they only have weight if you've built the story, which I feel like they really have. I watched it in the original language. I read the subtitles, which I think is always the way to go, but I think if you're going to go dubbing, I think you'll be fine. I understand if you do, there's a lot of dialogue, so you have to read pretty quickly to keep up with the action and what's happening. The animation itself, I think, is great. I love how vibrant the colors are here. The vibrancy of the animation lends to the story that they're trying to tell. It's a very chaotic story. It feels like there's a lot of tangents that some of these characters go on. Say tangents in their own arc, in their own story, but as always, they kind of meet up again, and so we have that formation of the team which you're rooting for by the time they get there. I was so surprised at how much ground this anime covers, and so I would think maybe one of the negatives is that some people might think that they're rushing some of the adaptation from the manga, I guess. They do cover a lot of ground, and it feels like they're rushing to get to a point where they need to. I didn't mind that. I was very impressed by the way they were able to tell a story, further the plot, but have action sequences within an episode, have the story driven for individual characters, but also have a main arc continue along that journey that it needs to. So they're always pushing that main grand arc, but at the same time they're developing those characters' backstories. So like I said, when you get to that main bit, when you get to the team formation, when they start going to the main storyline, which is basically about Camelot, and trying to help some of the Camelot team, King Arthur, then you will see that actually it has so much more weight. So you're just so with the team when they get there, when they start getting down to business, when they have to face what's left of the Ten Commandments, when they have to face, I'm not going to say new baddies, but things I weren't expecting. Because of the title, I guess you can guess some of what happens in the storyline, the Wrath of the Gods. And so I'm glad it went that way, but I wasn't expecting it. I haven't read the manga, so I didn't know that that's where we're going to go. And I watched this with my son, and we were both saying how much more complicated this storyline is than we expected. At the same time, it doesn't lose focus of where it needs to go, which I think is quite a skill. And that only comes down to the original content and if it's adapted well. And I think for the most part it is. I enjoyed the acting and the voice work. It's as it should be. Love the action sequences. It's so fun to watch. And when emotional moments do happen to your characters, you do feel for them because you've been on a massive journey for them. So I would say this is the best season, but only because it's had all the groundwork done for it already. You've had season 1, 2, you've had season 1 and a silly season 2 and season 3. Well, at least that's how they've put it together on Netflix. I know other anime sites and Crunchyroll and places like that sometimes label the series differently. That's okay. On Netflix, as it's classed as an original here in the UK and I believe the US, that's how they've classed them. And I think because we've had that grand story, that grand build up to the characters that we know and love now, I think it's done its job. It's come back with a bang, and I wasn't expecting it to be as good as this. I thought maybe during the COVID time that the animation might struggle, they might rush some things. But I thought it was really good and really entertaining. Who is your favorite character? Who do you think has had the best, I guess, definition of backstory that you like the most? I love Hawk the pig, and his mom, the Bohas. I think their stories are very interesting. I'm under the impression that the pig is actually terribly powerful. He just doesn't know he is, or the other team kind of ignore the fact that he never dies, which I think is fantastic. But other than that, I love each individual character. I don't think I could choose a specific one, like who would be my favorite, because I think they've all had really interesting stories, and they've grown so much in their characters that if you look at like the first episode from where they came to where they are now, you understand so much more about them. At first glance, they may look like a certain typical type of anime character. I'm strong and I'm the good guy. But when you see the backstories of these characters, you realize how much more is going on with that character. You just take Melodius, for example, knowing that he was the leader of the Ten Commandments. It gives him so much more weight. So you know that he's always fighting his evil self, basically, and he's always trying to not let that take over. So when you see him as the good guy, you realize how much he's fighting for, what he's fighting for. When you see when his love story is revealed and you understand some of the truths behind that, there is so much more to that. So that's what I really like about this. So when you get to the action sequences, you're like, yeah, I'm here for it, because they've really developed those stories, which I think is the really fun part about anime. You can delve so much into the psyches of the characters. So when you get to those very cool action sequences, you get to the fantasy elements, you get to the magics that just kind of take over the screen, you get to the fantastic scoring or sound effects, you're there for it, you're involved with the characters. And yeah, so I'm going to give this an A-. Chat to me in the comments below. Who is your favorite character? Which is your favorite season? And what do you expect coming forward with this series? Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.